I'm joined now by Senator Adam Schiff. Senator, I wanted to get your reaction first and foremost to the hearing that just took place with Todd Blanche, who is, of course, vying to be the next Attorney General. Did you get the impression, after having watched him, that he was actually going to be adherent to the Constitution as opposed to continuing his job as Donald Trump's personal criminal defense attorney?
No, he made it very clear that through his actions, he is really representing the person of the president, not the American people. And that's the central question at the heart of this hearing. And that is, who's representing the public in all of that the Justice Department is doing? So when it came to the Epstein files, for example, he took no responsibility for the fact the court has said the Justice Department is in violation of the law. He was asked whether he would apologize to the victims. And he tried to obfuscate things by saying, well, I feel bad whenever somebody's victimized by a crime. And it was pointed out to him, no, the one who did the victimization, in addition to Epstein, was the Justice Department in releasing victims' names, photos, personal information. Will you apologize for your role in that? He very begrudgingly did. He wouldn't agree to meet with the victims. He initially claimed that he couldn't meet with the victims, which is preposterous. And then when we went to other matters like the slush fund or the bogus sham IRS settlement, he was once again defending the president, really not the interests of the American people.
I thought what was interesting was his claim that when he was asked by one senator if he would just get this over with, release the files, just, get it done, his initial words out of his mouth were that would be illegal. Is it illegal or against the law for Todd Blanche to release the entirety of the remaining Epstein files? And of course, I'm not talking about victim information, but there are still 3 million documents that haven't yet been released.
So he is under a legal obligation to release these documents, not to withhold any of them because they might embarrass people or expose the identities of powerful people who were perpetrating any of these crimes that Epstein and his Confederates were responsible for. There may be some small set of material that is grand jury material where he would have to go before a court. But we know that there's millions of files still not yet released. And no one has any confidence, and not the judge that oversees the case, no one has any confidence that Blanche and the department are trying to do anything but protect these Epstein offenders. Todd Blanche today tried to argue that Donald Trump wanted these files released and he was pushing for it when we all know how hard he worked to stop the bipartisan legislation that mandated that disclosure. So his testimony was really duplicitous, particularly when it involved the Epstein files, but also with the whole weaponization of the Justice Department. At times he would brag, like when he goes before the conservative CPAC convention, about firing all of the prosecutors and the FBI agents who investigated his client, the president. And then when I asked him about that, he said, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. He took no responsibility for it. And that was what we saw throughout the hearing. It was this very duplicitous Todd Blanche giving verbal approval of department policies, but in his actions demonstrating he had really no adherence to the rule of law. His only loyalty is to the person of the president.
And why it must be stopped in its tracks this fall. Please like, share, take care out there, and watch your back.
I am the least racist person there is anywhere in the world.
Trump's golf course just got slapped with a brutal bomb, and it is beyond ironic. Donald Trump has spent the last 50 years selling you one single idea, that his name bolted to the front of a building means luxury. The finest marble, the finest gold, the finest everything.
In building, what I do best in life is build. I build buildings really well and under budget and ahead of schedule. That's what I do.
Or so he says. But this week, government inspectors toured some of the properties that have his name on them. And what they filed reads less like a 5-star review and more like a biohazard report. What's up, everybody? It's Andrew, and we're going to do this tour property by property because you're going to want to see each of them. But the last stop is genuinely hard to believe. First up, his crown jewel in New Jersey and what was exposed over the last year.
President Trump's Bedminster Golf Club is making headlines that Trump probably won't like. The Somerset County Department of Health just flagged Trump's golf club for 18 health violations in its latest inspection, giving it a score of 32 out of 100 possible points, earning it the lowest grade in the county. Out of 18 violations, 9 were flagged as critical, which means they could result in an unacceptable health risk. Included in the report was 4 hand washing violations, expired milk, and raw meat stored improperly. They earned the club a C grade, which is required to be displayed in a visible location. The inspection occurred May 6th. Forbes was the first outlet to report on Bedminster's health code violations this week.
Expired milk, improperly stored meat, and it earned Trump's favorite weekend getaway the single worst health score in the entire county. Dead last, at a place that he calls a diamond. And believe it or not, that's the nice one, because let's fly 1,000 miles west.
Trump International Hotel and Tower has made some improvements after failing a health inspection. In December, a health inspector cited the downtown Chicago hotel for 6 issues, including flies in the bar and dish areas and improper storage of cold food. They were instructed to have all areas affected by pests checked out by an expert.
Chicago's Trump Tower has agreed to cough up $4.8 million to settle a lawsuit for violating federal and state environmental laws. Friends of the Chicago River and Sierra Club announced the settlement today. The lawsuit said the tower ignored law minimizing impact on aquatic life and did not accurately report its water usage. Trump Tower has agreed to come into compliance with the Clean Water Act and the Illinois Environmental Protection Act. In a statement, a spokesperson said the tower denies wrongdoing and looks forward to supporting the sustainability of the Chicago River.
And that brings us to our breaking story today, because those two hold nothing on DC. And this week, Donald's property in Washington joined his list of embarrassments. Donald Trump's DC golf club was just slapped with multiple health code violations, including bugs, improperly stored raw meat, and prohibited pesticides. The facility was hit with multiple health code violations during an inspection by the county health department. The inspection was conducted on June 30th at Donald Trump's golf club, finding problems at the restaurant, grill, and snack bar areas. Violations include a large quantity of small flies in the storage room near the employee restrooms.
His lawyer.
Is the Department of Justice that you are running independent from the White House?
The Department of Justice, like every single department in the executive, is part of the executive.
You have said that the weaponization fund is a moot issue. Is that your position?
Yes, it is a moot issue. I suppose if President Trump's counsel sought to enforce it, they potentially could.
Including the weaponization fund?
Well, they could try to enforce the contract.
Do you personally believe that someone who forcibly entered the U.S. Capitol, assaulted law enforcement, should be rewarded with taxpayer money? Yes or no?
I can't answer it yes or no.
Can't answer a yes or no. A lot of senators, a lot of experts, certainly people who are supportive of police would say, yeah. Answer it no. Duh. Blanche was also asked about these new subpoenas, fresh this week, sent to New York Times journalists. Trump has also threatened now to go back after the broadcast licenses for ABC and NBC. This is over the network's decision, which, of course, in a free society like ours, is their independent press decision over whether or not to give him airtime. And this wasn't exactly an election night speech or a war address. This was a political presentation he wanted to make, and he's mad that they didn't deem it newsworthy enough to bump other programming. So he is retaliating with these threats. Blanche's nomination does hang in the balance. Republican Senator Cornyn reportedly on the fence. A defection could derail the nomination out of the committee, which is now down to a 1-vote margin. I enjoy our chance sometimes at the end of the week with a little more time to go into these things. I haven't heard from you yet on what we saw in that nomination hearing and how you view now with this new testimony, Blanche's prospects and qualifications to be AG for good.
I think it's clear, Blanche has testified yesterday, he is Trump's lawyer, tried to correct himself, but that's his mentality. Keep in mind that he just gave a press conference just a couple of weeks ago where what he said to the president was, "I love you, sir." His fealty is totally devoted to the president and not, sadly, to his oath of office, which requires him to pledge to preserve and protect the Constitution, which is, the time-honored approach of people who have been honored and selected for the position, which he will now sadly fill if confirmed.
Yeah. We think about what has been a decline in the integrity and, frankly, sometimes just the professional quality of appointees for Donald Trump in the second term. Bill Barr was controversial for certain reasons, but I want to just show a comparison of him to Blanche on some of these issues. Take a look.
I repeatedly told the president in no uncertain terms that I did not see evidence of fraud. I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bull.
Today, a grand jury sitting in the Eastern District of North Carolina returned an indictment against James Comey on 2 counts. I love working for President Trump. I love you, sir.
Do you see a contrast or a decline here?
Oh, extraordinary. Bill Barr, for, whatever quarrels people have about some of the decisions he made, he made them on a legal basis. And he was a good counselor to the president, trying to explain to the president where the guardrails were, what the evidence was, what the appropriate response to things were. There are no people in the White House, this White House, who take that road. The reality is they know, as Jay Clayton proved yesterday, that if they say anything that's contrary to the narratives, the false narratives that the president is so attached to, that they'll be fired, as the chief lawyer at the IRS was in essence today, because they didn't like the way that he handled that he objected to certain measures that the president and the White House wanted to do with regard to tax audits, likely of the president's enemies.
Yeah. And, you look at some of the back and forth. I wonder what you, as a DOJ veteran, thought of Blanche trying to sort of drape himself in the credibility of these other people, some of whom are resigning in protest or having their careers railroaded over what are, again, not a left or right, not a red-blue thing, but baseless cases floundering the grand jury, cases tossed by independent judges and Republican appointees. That's context for this exchange. Take a look with White House.
When for the first time in history there's an inquiry into fraud upon the court committed by the Department of Justice, the silence from the department in response to that is deafening, Mr. Blanche. This seems to be the most troubled Department of Justice in history.
The Department of Justice works hard. The prosecutors work hard every day, and I appreciate the hand-picked words that you have behind you right now, but that's not reflective of the 100,000 indictments and informations that have been filed to do the work that I talked about earlier today.
Whether the issue involves protecting communities or ensuring that victims are treated fairly, many critics believe the nomination raised deeper concerns about the future direction of the Justice Department. During his confirmation hearing, Todd Blanche sought to convince senators that he would make decisions independently if confirmed. However, one particular moment quickly became the focus of the proceedings. While referring to President Donald Trump, Blanche briefly described himself as his lawyer before immediately correcting his statement. Opponents argued that the remark reflected more than a simple verbal slip. In their view, it suggested an ongoing sense of loyalty that could influence how the Justice Department would operate under his leadership. As the hearing continued, lawmakers questioned Blanche about several contentious matters, including an immunity agreement connected to Trump associates, issues surrounding the January 6th investigations, compensation disputes, and decisions involving prominent criminal cases. Throughout much of the questioning, Blanche relied on legal and procedural explanations, but several senators argued that his answers did not fully address the central concern, whether he would place the rule of law above any personal or political relationship. The scrutiny was not limited to Democrats. Republican Senator John Cornyn also raised concerns about the language used in a settlement agreement that appeared to provide unusually broad protections. Democratic senators, meanwhile, argued that Blanche's testimony resembled that of a private defense attorney, rather than someone seeking to lead the nation's highest law enforcement agency. The political reaction extended beyond the hearing room. Senator Cory Booker contended that Blanche had already demonstrated a willingness to use the Justice Department in ways that could benefit President Trump, while placing greater scrutiny on political opponents. Other legal observers warned that if the Attorney General is widely viewed as serving the interests of a single individual instead of the Constitution, public confidence in future Justice Department investigations could be weakened from the outset. For many observers, that is why the confirmation battle attracted so much attention. The debate ultimately centered on a much broader question than Todd Blanche's nomination alone. It focused on whether the Department of Justice should remain accountable first and foremost to the Constitution and the American people, or whether critics' concerns about political influence would continue to shape public perception. The discussion leaves a fundamental question for the public. To whom should the Attorney General ultimately owe their highest duty? The Constitution or any president?